When you look at this picture, what comes to your mind? Okay, Sikhism, but okay, so reading some religious text or something like that. Okay, let's. Okay, so in a way we have a guru, and here you have the Granth. Okay, you have the Granth over here. So as you all have rightly said, today we will be dealing with Sikhism. Okay, so we begin with a new religion after having finished with Buddhism and Jainism. So now when we listen to the word Sikhism, what is the first thing that comes to our mind? Okay, let's go one by one. So when we okay, long hair. One by one. Okay, turban, then okay, sings. Okay, then okay, kirpan. Okay, good. Guru Nanak, very good. Then you have Gurudwara. Golden Temple. Okay, then Charity. Okay, Kada, right? Langar. Okay. Yeah, so turban, etc. So anyway, so this is something that we generally associate with when we speak about Sikhism. But generally also it is said that the first thought sometimes also goes to, as somebody said, Punjab. Okay, because we see that it was in the late 15th century that Guru Nanak, okay, the charismatic leader, founded this religion. Now when we look at the word Punjabi, okay, or Punjab, okay, so here when we look at the map of Punjab, we see that which is now this map is belonging to which era, do you think? Okay, so before independence, before you have the division, okay, because now you also have certain parts which were in Pakistan. Now, any reason why Punjab has got the name Punjab? Okay, because of the 5 rivers. So when we look at the word Punjab, you see that it is composed of 2 Persian words, okay, namely Punj, which means 5, and you have Ab, which means water. Okay, and which are these 5 rivers? You have the Beas, you have Chenab, you have Jhelum, Ravi and Sutlej. Okay, so you have these 5 rivers. See, this is basically the main one which is outside the thing. Okay, so the 5 main are the ones which are within. Therefore, it gets the name Punjab. Now we see that in the pre-independence era, these 5 rivers were part of one Punjab region. But now, as we know, after the independence, they are now divided between India and Pakistan. Now this land is in a way very fertile. Known for wheat cultivation. So yeah, so this is what we have the present day Punjab. Okay. So now we have seen about Punjab. Let's come to Sikhism and let's take a look at the etymology of the word Sikhism. Now we see that the word Sikhism takes its origin from two languages. Okay, one is Pali and the other one is Sanskrit. Okay, now Pali, as we all know, was the one in which Buddhist literature was written. So in here we see that the word Sikha means study or discipline. And in Sanskrit, Shishya means disciple. Okay, and therefore we see that Sikhs can be considered members of a group who consider themselves as the disciples of the 10 Gurus. Beginning from Guru Nanak Dev to Guru Gobind Singh. Okay, and therefore the religion is called Sikhism. Now we see that so in India, when we look at the location, okay, where are the Sikhs found, we see that predominantly we find them in the region of Haryana, Punjab and Delhi. But this is not so. Not only in India, but we also find them in other parts of the country as well as in the world. For example, some of the Sikhs are also settled in Malaysia, then Canada. You have them in also Singapore, East Africa, then you have in the UK, United Kingdom, United States, okay. Now these are the places where in majority, predominantly they are there. They may also be present in other countries also. Okay, so now we need to know that much before all this began, there was a kind of a movement that led to the development of Sikhism. And therefore, after having seen the etymology, after having seen where the Sikhs predominantly are settled, let us now take a look at the historical background of the religion. So any guesses where would the origin of the religion would have happened? Historical roots. In which part of India do you think it would have? Okay, some of you all say Punjab, some of you all say Haryana. Okay, let's come to this. So, when we speak about the historical background, we are going back now to the 11th century. Okay, so here we see that now among the pious and devout followers of Lord Vishnu, who were called as the Vaishnavites, in South India, particularly in Tamil Nadu, there began a movement, a kind of a very attractive, a kind of a very captivating movement, which was called as the Vaishnava Bhakti movement. Okay, and we see that this movement was then taken to northern part of India by Ramanuja. And therefore, though this movement encountered a lot of opposition, we see that it stood the test of time, it faced the challenges, and it spread widely. Now, as we have seen, this whole movement was centered around the worship of Lord Vishnu. Okay, one of the principal deities in Hinduism. Now, how does this Vaishnava Bhakti movement begin? Now, it is said that, any idea what does the word Bhakti mean? Devotion. Okay, so Bhakti means devotion, and therefore we see that this movement emphasized a kind of a personal as well as a emotional plus direct relationship with God, and here in particularly with Vishnu and with his avatars such as Rama and Krishna. Okay, so now in Tamil Nadu we see that this movement was inspired by the teaching of the Alvars. Any Jones or Joseph, can you all tell something about Alvars, if you all? Okay, so here we see that the Alvars are a group of 12 mystic poet saints. Okay, and these were the ones who composed devotional hymns in praise of Lord Vishnu. Okay, now who were these Alvars? Okay, so you have Nammalvar, then Periyalvar, then you have Andal, so Andal. Okay, so these were the prominent ones. Okay, there were also others who played a important role in spreading this Bhakti ethos or spreading the Bhakti devotion in the region, as well as which then later on goes to the north. Now their hymns were known as Divya Prabandham. Okay, Divya Prabandham, and these were written in Tamil, and this was instrumental in making the worship of Vishnu accessible to the common people. And here we see that this was precisely breaking away from the excessive rituals and ceremonies that were often restricted only to the Brahmins. Okay, is there any other religion which we have already seen which has something similar to this? Jainism. Okay, so we see that because these rituals, these ceremonies were in a way only restricted to the Brahmins. Okay, so the people, the common man had no direct access to God. So therefore these devotions in a way were bringing the God closer to them by allowing them to practice their simple common faith. So now we see that this movement gained momentum. It was beginning to be accepted widely, and slowly under the influence of Ramanuja, it starts going towards the northern part of India. Okay, so Ramanuja, we see that was born in Tamil Nadu, and in a way he was a key figure of the Sri Vaishnavism tradition. So he advocated the Vishishta Advaita, which is qualified non-dualism, which you all will study later on in your course of Darshanas, which basically thought that the individual soul is distinct yet inseparably connected to the Supreme Being, who is Vishnu. Okay, so we will not go into the details of this thing because it will be dealt with in the next course. So now, his teachings, okay, the teachings of Ramanuja emphasize the concept of surrender to Vishnu. And this basically promoted the idea that salvation can be attained through pure devotion as well as love for the deity. That means you need not do elaborate practices, you need not go and do something extravagant. If you have a pure devotion, if it is done with love, it is more than enough in order to assure salvation. And we see that this also challenged the rigid caste system, which was very prominent. Okay, and in a way this insisted that devotion is open to all, irrespective of caste, irrespective of creed, irrespective of a person's social status. Anyone can have access to the divine, anyone can practice and have their own devotion to God. And therefore this inclusive approach, or this approach of getting everybody together, of making religion accessible to everybody, okay, was something why the Bhakti movement became so popular. Okay, so as we have all seen, when people are restricted and now they have access, so therefore the people also begin to feel good about it, and in this way they were resonating well with this movement, and therefore it had a larger audience. So we see that as the Bhakti movement challenged the caste system, as it becomes more popular, now we see that since the appeal and the power of the Bhakti movement was quite good, it was going quite well, Ramanuja basically traveled a lot in order to make sure that the message goes beyond Tamil Nadu. Okay, and mostly into the northern regions of India. (11th century). So, if you want to be particular, we'll have to say, Ramanuja basically lived from 1017 to 1137 CE. Okay, so now we see that his efforts now lead to the establishment of Vaishnavism as a significant religious force in the Indo-Gangetic plains. So that means in the northern part of India. But here we see that this movement also had to face different religious cultural traditions, because as we know, there is a lot of cultural diversity within the country as well, and therefore we see that there were a few oppositions and challenges. So as we know, who would be the first to challenge? Brahmins. Why would they be? Okay, the authority is questioned. In which way? So, in a way, what we can say is, when knowledge, okay, or when something is restricted to only a few, okay, those few are able to have control, those few are able to exercise power or even manipulate certain things, right? Now, when the information is available to everybody, then we see that you don't have that same power. So, in this way, one of the main challenges came from the Brahmins, who saw this as a challenge to their religious authority. So, in a way, they were threatened by the Bhakti movement as it challenged their religious authority. Okay, and also at the same time, it was perceived as a threat. Why? Because the emphasis on personal devotion. Then you also had rejection of elaborate rituals, and most importantly, critique of caste system. Okay, as a result of it, these were perceived as a threat by the Brahmins. But we see that in spite of these difficulties, in spite of these challenges, the Bhakti movement begins to grow and flourish. And therefore, we see that one of the most important aspects was the simplicity of its message and the inclusiveness that it attracted a large following. So since it was open to all, it also got more popular. Now we see that over a period of time, the Vaishnava Bhakti movement in a way became deeply embedded into the religious and the cultural fabric. So in a way it became part of the culture and the tradition of the country, and it also played a key role in the development of regional languages and literature. Now, how do you think it played an important role in the development of regional languages and literature? So now let's say, for example, earlier everything was in which language? All the Sanskrit. Okay. So now, if we want to make the Sanskrit text or whatever is written in Sanskrit available to everybody, how is one of the way? Translate. Okay. So things were translated into the local languages, regional languages. Apart from that, we see that there were a lot of devotional hymns as well as songs which were composed in these vernacular languages. Okay, and as a result of it, this was one of the ways how it became more accessible to the people. Now we see that this movement also laid the groundwork for later Bhakti saints and poets across India, such as Kabir, then you have Tulsidas, Surdas and Mirabai. Okay, who then begin to further spread this devotion through their own compositions. And therefore we see that this Vaishnava Bhakti movement becomes a unifying force that transcended religious as well as cultural barriers. So now we'll take a look at the Guru tradition in Sikhism. So, can anybody identify who is this? Okay, so this is Guru Nanak. Good. Now, he was born in 1469 and in the village of Rai Boy Di Talwandi, which is around 65 kilometers from Lahore, which is in present day Pakistan. Now, his father was basically a revenue collector. Okay, belonging to the Bedi. So this Bedi was a subcaste of the Kshatriya caste. Okay, so what was the Kshatriya caste of? Warriors, kings, etc. So now this subcaste, okay, that is the Bedi, they were very much in a way conversant, or they were very much experts with the Vedas. Okay, so they were conversant with the Vedas, and in this way we see that this in a way, so they were known for their association and therefore the term Bedi itself suggests a connection to Vedic knowledge and learning. So here we see that Guru Nanak's family in short, we can say that has a tradition of scholarship and reverence for the Vedas. So very much in a way acquainted with the Vedas and the Vedic literature. Now if you look at his childhood, we see that he was quite a contemplative person. And therefore he received his initial early education in Hindu lore as well as rudiments of Islam. So therefore this early education had a mix of Hindu lore and rudiments of Islam. So few Islamic principles etc. he was also taught when he went for his education. Now we see that early in the life he also began associating with holy men, and for a time he also worked as an accountant of the Afghan chieftain at Sultanpur. Okay, so as he was over there, we see that there was a person by the name of Mardana. Now he was a servant of a Muslim family in the vicinity. He joined Guru Nanak. Now this Mardana, as we said, was a rebec player. He joined Guru Nanak and together they began to compose hymns. And they also organized community hymn singing, getting the people together and having some devotional singing. Okay, and in a way they also organized a canteen where Muslims as well as Hindus from different castes could come and eat together. So in a way we see that some of the things which are already present in Sikhism can also be seen in his early life. Okay, so it was already there within him. His whole devotion for singing as well as this whole concept of the canteen, opening it for people irrespective of caste and open to both Hindus as well as Muslims. So now we see that they found him not very good in accountancy. Okay, so he may have been good in other things, but definitely he was an accountant, as we see in the Afghan chieftain in Sultanpur. But there he was not very good at his work. Okay, so his father gives him the work now of grazing cattle. Okay, so at least do that. So he's given the work of grazing cattle, and one day while he was in a way taking bath in the river, he had the first vision of God. So in a way, he experienced the presence of God and also received the gift of name. And now the command that was given to him was to preach to mankind. So apparently it is said that he disappeared while he was bathing. So we know he is taking bath, he has this vision of God, and then suddenly he disappears, okay, in the stream. And then on the third day he appears back, okay, he comes to his normal consciousness and he says, there is no Hindu, there is no Mussalman. And then we know that from the traditions that he becomes a wandering mystic, goes from place to place in order to fulfill the command of preaching to mankind. Okay, and how does he do this? He does this by singing hymns or devotions, okay, in the praise of the formless God and the inner Guru. Okay, so this was with regards to the experience that Guru Nanak had, the experience of God that he had. Now,
if we said there is no Hindu or no Muslim, to which God we are singing hymns to?
we'll come to that. We'll come to the concept of God. As of now, for him it is, there is no, the emphasis here is there is no division. Therefore, if you noticed when he starts the canteen also, there is no division of caste, whether it is in Hinduism, or there is no division which is there between religions, between Hindu and Islam. So that what we asked about, what God is he talking about, that will come when we deal with his concept of God. Okay, so now we are just looking at his life as such. So when we look at the voyages, so we see that after having the command, he now goes preaching as a, how does he go? As a wandering mystic. And how does he fulfill the command? Singing hymns, devotional praises, etc. So it is said that there are 4 long voyages that he undertook. So first is, he went eastward as far as Assam. Then he goes south through Tamil Nadu, okay, into Ceylon, which is present day Sri Lanka. Then he goes north to Ladakh and Tibet, and west as far as Mecca, Medina and Baghdad. Okay, so here we see that the last few years of his, he spent in Kartarpur, which is in present day Pakistan. And it is here in Kartarpur that he establishes, or in a way he builds, the first Sikh temple. And one of his disciples, that is Angad, was then nominated as the successor. Okay, so we see that Angad was one of his, in a way, disciples, okay, who became his successor, or who was nominated successor by Guru Nanak. Tomorrow we'll take a look at the Mool Mantra or the Mool Mantar, and also we'll see some of the other elements which are there, and also we'll take a look at the next few gurus. Okay, so thank you.